All right, so we have the Rise Up guys here today, and I'm going to be asking some questions. So we've got Travis and Vaidas, and I'm really excited to have you all and ask you some of these questions. But before we kind of get into that, I think this question is maybe more for Travis, but you've spent decades really working directly with law firms and really on their marketing. And so, what do you think is the biggest shift that you've seen in the last few years when it comes to how firms have changed how they get their clients?
Yeah, well, I mean, like you said, I've been doing this for almost 2 decades, and I remember back in the day, we were having to convince attorneys that they need a website. We don't hear that very much anymore, but I really think it's just, after COVID, people were realizing that they needed to jump on the internet, they needed to expand their footprint and really get more visibility, and so we've seen more acceptance of that over the last 5 years or so, to where, even folks that, and I mean, the personal injury attorneys were always first to market and all that good stuff, and accepting of marketing, but all the other practice areas as well, as now they realize that people are using their phones, people are jumping online, and really accepting the idea of having a digital footprint.
Yeah, I remember early on, whenever I got in, when I started my firm, it was, I couldn't really compete with the PI people at the time, right? So I was doing criminal defense and personal injury. And so criminal defense was like shooting fish in a barrel. Like no one was doing it. It was super easy. The Google ads were super cheap. From an SEO standpoint, I was ranking very quickly and I was just doing it all myself. All that has changed substantially, especially nowadays. It's completely different. I do wonder because I think you all have a massive advantage because you all stay up to speed on things when it comes to like the LLMs and how the search is changing and all that. I guess, where do you all see that head? I mean, that seems like it's kind of like a Wild West right now.
It is a wild west for sure. I mean, the good thing right now, as we sit here in August of 2025, much of the things that you do for SEO are very similar to getting a firm to show up on ChatGPT and things of that nature. It's still all about publishing content and making it authoritative, right? So those things have not changed. But if I were, just like I run this business, my what I tell people is stay diversified, right? Like the same thing that your stock guy or your investment guy would tell you is you don't put all your eggs in one basket, right? I mean, we've seen this over the last 3-4 years where LSAs came into the picture. Is if your budget allows, and as you grow, don't keep all your eggs in one basket. Having SEO and PPC and LSAs and social, having all those revenue streams up and going is what's going to help you survive as time keeps going. And then as ChatGPT, it's pulling market share, it's pulling traffic away from Google. You definitely want to make sure that you're investing in that, or being able to, as things get more clear of how that works. Certainly there's going to be, I can't imagine there's not going to be ads on a lot of these LLMs. That's coming. I can't imagine that's not going to be the case. So that would be my big, if you can afford to do so, make sure you're diversified, not have everything in one bucket.
It's got to be kind of an exciting time for you all though, because it's changing so much, and so your all's company is going to have to adapt. You're probably already adapting substantially to the new reality. And I mean, is this part of this kind of exciting for you all? Cause it's not like you're just going to be doing SEO. There's going to be so much more to it.
No, it's definitely an exciting time. There's going to be some big winners for sure. And we want our clients to be there 100%. Like there's no question about it. Like we're excited as a company and investing a lot of time and resources to figure all this stuff out so we can take our client. I mean, we have close to 600 clients. And so if they win, we win. So as I think we've said on this podcast before, everything we do is month to month. So, we have to earn our paycheck every single month. So it's a lot of people are scared of what's coming with AI, and I understand all those things. But I think there's a huge advantage, like it always has been. As technology is advanced, there's going to be winners. And how do we get our clients to be those firms that are winning?
I think it's really cool how you all always approach things where it's like we're in this together. I think a lot of companies, they view it's like us versus them, and you all view it as like, hey, no, like you just mentioned, like we have 600 customers, like, and I think that is really cool how you do view it as like we're all in this together. We're trying to do everything we can to win for our people. I think that that's really really cool. But I'm going to shift gears because you all probably seen a lot over the years about this where there's some firms where they say, all I want is referrals. They rely heavily on referrals. And I know Travis, you'd mentioned, diversifying and all that, but, and this may be more of a question for Vaidas, but at what point do you see that strategy start to limit growth?
Well, the firms that typically say they get all their business from referrals also say, I don't need to market and it doesn't matter. And that's really a very limiting approach because one, referrals, you don't know when the next one's coming in, so there's no consistency to it. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's feast or famine, right? And the other thing that's really important is that we know referrals come in threes. Typically, people don't get one referral; they get a couple, two or three. And the first thing that they're going to do is go Google you, go research you online, see what they find out about you. And numerous conversations are always about, would you tell somebody if they're considering hiring you to go to your website to validate who you are? In other words, are you proud enough of your website? Does it say all the right things to represent you as the first impression? And a lot of times they're like, oh, no, we don't want that going on. Well, then you're just literally shooting yourself in the foot there because most people's first impression of you as a lawyer or a law firm is going to be your website because they're going to go Google you and see what they find.
And how do you grow, with firms that are growth minded, right? Which I would assume many of your listeners are. It's like, how do you go scale your business 25% next year just off referrals or 50% or 100%? Like you have no control over that. And so you better have a line in the water with some type of marketing that you can scale if truly you want to grow. I mean, if they have enough business and they're not trying to grow, then sure, work off referrals. That's fine. But I know our business. Listen, we have 10 sales reps that work with us that all have been in this business for 10, 15 plus years. Like we don't hire folks who don't have tons of experience, and we still need to market, right? We have to. We spend the same type of money, and we spend hundreds of thousands of dollars a month on marketing just to keep this thing rolling.
And and on top of that, actually, and this is mostly sort of in the PI specific market, right? Where, I get all my business from referrals. Well, typically they're paying a referral fee or a percentage, right? And it seems to be happening more often than not now where they're like, I am really tired of doing all the work and then having to cut a check to somebody just because they gave me a lead. Steve, my colleague at Rise Up, who goes to all the Max Law events, his whole point is like, what'd you pay on referral fees last year? That should be your marketing budget because that's what you're paying for marketing. You're just writing them a check versus, marketing for yourself as a firm.
Yeah, I think there's another problem that a lot of people, I don't think they think about, is that you see a lot of firms that have plateaued over the years. And a lot of those firms are the ones that they don't really focus on marketing. They say they get their cases from referrals and they do start to plateau. And the problem with the plateau is it's really hard to get out of that plateau if you let it go too long, because you start to see, okay, everything's stagnant. They start to hire more and more people. So their profit margins get slimmer and slimmer. So then they have less money to spend on marketing. And by the time they hit that backslide, they don't have money for the marketing. Yeah. And now they're having to slash everything. So it's a really big problem if you let the plateau go too far. And that's where I think that approach, although it can be effective to some extent, there's a point where you're going to plateau because you're not focusing on marketing, and it's really going to hurt you. And so you make a really good point though about the when it comes to the just spending money on the marketing, continue to market and all that too. But I think it's the backside of things that people don't think about too much.
It's digging your well before you're thirsty, right?
I like that. I like that phrase. That's exactly what it is.
I mean, we see this, doing this for so long. Like we see this, right? Where it's the firm, a little longer in the tooth, seeing this, worked off referral, and we get the panic call, like, hey, these young whippersnappers down the road are grabbing some cases that we quote unquote should be getting, right? And I know why they're doing that, because they've been investing in their online presence, and we have completely neglected that. And now they're forced with having to play some catch up, which they never had to do before. And then we're forced, and then the expectation on us is like to make up for 10, 15 years of not marketing
years
and
of not doing
trying to get them caught up. And then then they need to have patience to make sure that they're, get caught up with the folks who've been doing this for 10, 15 years and investing tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars into their marketing.
And there's also, just to add to that, Tyson, it's really a dynamic shift that's going on from a old school versus new school way of doing things. I would argue that, again, I've been doing this 25 years. The lawyers that I started working with 20, 25 years ago, they're either set in their ways, winding down their practice, or to Travis's point, they have some younger attorneys they need to feed, but like they're fine, right? But most firms, if they haven't participated, are lacking in that. And the younger generation of lawyers that may not hold a candle to them as far as experience, they grew up with digital phones and marketing and social media, and that's all they know. So they're jumping into it like a year into practice. They've got a website that crushes what this firm that has 30 lawyers or 30 years of experience has. And they're like, to Travis's point, how are they getting those clients? Well, they're getting those clients because they're on the first page of Google. They're running local service ads. They're doing all the right things. The only way anyone hires you, Mr. Attorney, is if they're referred to you, because I can't find you, with a magnifying glass because you have no on-site or no online presence. And that's a conversation that typically is a bit of an eye-opener to them because they don't really know what they're missing until they see it.
Yeah. It makes me think about, so I've heard actually multiple stories. This is kind of a plug for you all, where people started using you all and got results really quickly. And so I do wonder what it is that whenever a firm that is in that similar position, like what is it you all are doing to get them results so quickly? Because I know that SEO is more of a long-term strategy, but I have heard multiple stories of people, hiring Rise Up and saying, hey, like I've gotten pretty quick results. And so I am curious about that part of it.
Well, I think it really comes down to this, like talking to the attorney and figuring out what is their budget, what do they want, where do they want it, and how much of it do they want, right? And then figuring out what is your budget and have they thought this through. Like if the PI client's employment, work comp, like they get paid on contingency, has a salesperson or a marketing person ever walk them through what that looks like? And I tell every one of them that I talk to, I was like, even if I came onto this call with 5 cases over my shoulder, you're not seeing money on that for 6 or 12 months, best case scenario. And they go, yeah, you're right. So have you thought this through? Like I'm going to go do a bunch of research and figure out what it's going to take to get your site to rank. And if you're just starting, you're looking at depending on the market and so on and so forth. But can you pallet paying X amount of dollars for a year before even case number 1 comes in, and then cases come in, and now you're waiting for it to get paid for another 6 or 12 months? Have you thought that through? And that's more of a long-term strategy. Or do we need to implement pay-per-click ads or LSA ads or social media where the phone's going to ring right away? And maybe we go a little conservative on the website. Just let's get you a fancy brochure online. So the fish that are trying to jump in the boat, which are your referrals, do that, right? And do we incorporate some more instant? I wouldn't say short-term strategy because that would imply that you should shut it off after some time, but more of an instant gratification type of strategy where we can get some cases in the door, let's get cash flow in the door, and let's help you scale your business. I think a lot of folks, myself included, us all starting businesses before, like you don't know everything, you haven't thought this through. Do you have somebody experienced that will walk you through what that looks like and set the right expectation? I have a client, I'll give you a perfect example. I have a client that I worked with for a long time. He's a criminal defense DUI attorney here in Southern California, and he was newer to the game. Had a website. It was god awful, but it'll do for the time being. He had some content on there that we could utilize. He had a $3,500 budget. We put $1,000 toward the website just to give him a fancy brochure online. Took another $2,500 and put it into LSA ads. He was able to get 17 calls that first month. 7 of them turned into cases. He charges $3,500 for a DUI. So off of that $3,500, he made $24,500. And then I'm getting goosebumps right now thinking about it. Like, he's like, I just had the best month I ever had. Thank you so much for doing it. I could have took that. Listen, we put a majority of that money and gave it to Google, right? That we could have done. I could have done that. Take that same budget, put it all into a website, knowing that it's going to take him a year and a half to get caught up in LA, Southern California with DUIs, and probably would have quit along the way at some point because his finances I'm guessing, would probably not be able to keep up with that. But because we had his best interests in mind, and I want his business for the long term, not just for a month or two, we switched that and were able and understood his needs, even though he wasn't able to think it, didn't have the knowledge to think it through what expectations to have, but put him in a position to where now here we are 3-4 years later, and now his website's killing it. He put more money into that. We expanded his LSAs, and he's cooking now. But if we would have, that is how a marketing company who's looking out for their clients should do business, in my opinion.
Yeah, and to answer, I think your question in a slightly different way was, how are we able to get fast results? I think that's what started the question. Is that right?
Pretty much, because it's interesting how you're able to make little tweaks so quickly, or like do little adjustments and do fast things to get fast results. And I just think it's an interesting thing that you're able to do.
Yeah, and without giving away the secret sauce, if you will, I think.
No, I want you to give all the secrets. Give us every single secret.
I mean, it sounds sort of one-sided, but it's amazing to me to this day of how many people that we talk to that are being told that they're getting certain services, whether, oh yeah, we're getting SEO, or we're getting this and we're getting that. And then when we look under the hood, there's really not a whole lot going on. And, their content isn't competitive, and their blog posts or whatever they're quote paying for is so low on the what's required scale that by us just doing it right, doing what we do as a company, we're able to improve on that very quickly, because we actually take a look at the entire picture. And again, whether it's, hey, you know what, you need to move the needle quickly, we're going to run LSAs, we can get those turned on within a few days because you've got a good GMB going. And more importantly, we look at our relationships with our clients as partnerships. This isn't a transaction where we build you something and, hey, we'll call you in a year. We have a very partnership-centric, team-centric approach with our clients. Some of our clients we talk to, honestly, every couple of weeks. If it's like a new ramp up, some of them are scheduled once a month, once a quarter, but it is an ongoing relationship so that we can show them the results of what we're doing and the strategy that we implement every single month. There's a lot of companies that once a website's been built, there's really almost nothing going on an ongoing basis, which in this day and age and the competitive nature of Google is you're treading water or sinking. So bluntly, most of the people we end up working with are in some level of that. So when we bring on our services and our approach, it has a pretty significant impact pretty quickly.
I hear a couple phrases all the time where, I tried Google AdWords, it didn't work. I tried LSAs, it didn't work. I tried SEO, it didn't work. Is there anything that you all could point to that usually is like a common thread as to why those things didn't work for those firms?
You want to take it?
One of two things: lack of budget or lack of effort on the marketing agency's end. Right? Like what we do is it's not inexpensive. Right? It's not simple. In each of those different things, there's a different reason for it. PPC, you can spend too little bit of money, right? Like if it's, we get calls frequently where people go, hey, like in Southern California, for example, like, hey, I want to go after car accidents in Los Angeles, and I have $10,000 a month, and I spend it with XYZ company, and I'm not getting anything. And I said, you should take your wife on a vacation or out to dinner, or go put it on Red or Black in Vegas, because it's not going to work with us either. right? Because out here it's $350 to $500 a click. Let's say it's $500 a click. You can do the math. If you're giving Google, and that's not one dime going into our pocket. You give Google 10 grand and it's $500 a click. Like, if you're converting, a good conversion rate, for example, is like for every one person that clicks your ad, for every 5 people that click your ad, one person calls. You're a 20% conversion rate. Google will tell you 10%. I would tell you that's a bit not what we shoot for, but let's say 20%. So if you're only getting X amount of clicks, you're not turning over enough cards to find the ace. Like in a silly example, like if you had a deck of cards and you're looking for aces, like there's 4 aces in the deck, right? And if you're only turning over 3 or 4 cards, you're only buying 3 or 4 cards off the top of the deck and crossing your fingers hoping you found an ace. I don't like those odds. If I were a betting man, which I am, I'm not taking those odds. So having a big enough budget to at least go through, how the firms that are doing well do it is they buy 30, 40, 50 cards off the deck and they're flipping them over, and now they get all the aces and they're able to scale that business. Does that make sense? LSA is a little bit different. The only way that really doesn't work is if the phone doesn't ring, right? The good thing about LSA is the worst thing that can happen is, if your phone doesn't ring, you don't spend any money. So there's some safety rails in there, right? Type of thing. And then the big thing is answering the phone. We work with almost 600 firms, I would say on average across the board. If you put them all in a big bucket, like firms typically answer their phone 65, 70% of the time. And there's like 30% that they miss. That's a big deal. Typically most firms, like one call can pay for their marketing. Right? I mean, if I'm generalizing. So like making sure you're answering the phone, making sure there's multiple ways to communicate with your office, right? Phone calls, emails, texts, like especially the younger generation. Like I have a younger brother that works with me. Like if I call him, he probably is not going to answer the phone. But if I text him, he like texts me right back. And I'm like, dude, like I don't want to talk on the phone. There's just that big. There's
That's a generational thing. No question. Like the younger generation doesn't talk. They want immediate texting, messaging, but I don't have time to talk to you. So
I agree.
Well, how do you all educate your customers then? Because you've probably run into situations where you've done all this work where you're generating the leads, and then they've got these massive holes in their boat where they're not capturing those leads in some way and not following up. So it's got to be extremely frustrating for you all, I bet, because you've done this work and they've paid you the money to do it. You've done what you needed to do. The leads are coming in, their calls are coming in, they're getting things to their submissions through their website. So how do you all convey that to your clients? You gotta fix these holes in your bucket.
I'll take this. You can jump on this. Yeah. We record every call.
Yep.
Everyone, if you're a client of ours, I would turn the screen on, and we use a thing called CallRail. There's tons of different options out there, but literally just listen to every call, and we'll do the legwork of listening to their calls. Let's say they're getting 100 calls. We'll go back 90 days or whatever it takes, and we'll have somebody listen to all the calls and put notes on there, and bring them a scorecard of like. And we've actually developed some AI that will listen. We just built a tool that we're about to launch that will do it all for them, where I'll give them a call and go, hey, listen, here, these 100 calls, 30 of them were missed, 20 of them were hit a voicemail, 17 appointments were set or whatever. And then we're able to give it, but it's really just answering the phone and converting those calls and showing them. It's an aha moment. I don't remember, I've been on the phone with thousands of law firms. I don't know of one that's showed up to the call and go, hey, listen, my intake sucks, but I would like to do my, like, it's denial, right? It's complete denial. So it's a little bit of showing them like, listen, and we tell them ahead of time, are you okay with us listening and critiquing your intake? Can we secret shop your office? Like doing all these things, because listen, our relationship has a small timeline if we don't fix those. I wish, Tyson, that we could just do what we do best, market and get the phone to ring, and everything else would work itself out. But because it's not in our job description, so we've had to make relationships with answering services, with chat services and things of that nature, and roll up our sleeves and get involved with these guys to help them. Because 85%, 80 some odd percent of our clients are solo practitioners, up to about 2 or 3 attorneys. So they're the chef, they're the waiter, they're the cook, they're the host, and they got a million things. Like every business owner can relate to this. You have a million things, and you got a to-do list, and you get to like 7 of them of the 20 on your list every day, right? And so it's up to us to fill the gap and bring to the table, like, here's what's going on. There's been some tough conversations over the years that we've had to have where people, have their mother-in-law answering the phone, and they've had to delegate her to a different task because they don't realize that how rude that person is answering the phone. And like, you know what I mean? Like, so anyway, that's the big piece that we, if I could give any piece of advice, as funny as it may sound, because we don't make any money out, figure out your intake, and you'll spend half the money in marketing and get twice the results, in my opinion.
Yeah, and if I could just kind of piggyback off that, because you said how frustrating is it for us, and how do we handle that? And kind of what I said earlier about, we have very constant communication with our clients. Like every time we get on a Zoom call with our clients, we go through this stuff. We go through the analytics of the website, through the calls and all that stuff, and it's a very humbling experience to them when we show up. Okay, well, you had 50 phone calls last week, but 25 of them all went to voicemail. The other ones, do you want to listen how your intake was? Because I wouldn't hire you if this person answered this way. And just, Travis's point, whether it's the mother-in-law or even worse, hey, I listened to this phone call. This sounds like a really good case. What do you think? And the attorney listens to it, and he's confused as to why his intake said we don't take those kind of cases, or referred them to another lawyer in the area when he's like, holy crap, that we take those cases, right? So it's an educational tool for one, and more importantly, most, like Travis said, they've got all these hats to wear. Most of them just assume the phone's being answered correctly or well, or in a way that they'd be happy with. And not to say that happens all the time, but there's always room for improvement. And we approach it with like, look, this isn't here to get somebody in trouble or get somebody fired, but I think that there's some lessons to the best way to handle these intakes. One thing I tell them, like, your staff's job when they get that phone call is typically not to educate them, not to answer a ton of questions, but to get them on the calendar for you. You want to book an appointment. And, I've listened to 10 minutes of a paralegal or a receptionist going through all sorts of stuff. And at the end, it's like, okay, well, I appreciate it. Thanks. Like, you didn't do your job. Like, your job is to get the attorney scheduled, right? So those types of things. But it all stems to, we have the analytics and the tools to show them what we're delivering. And if the ball is being dropped, we can show that to them. And in most cases, whether it's an eye opener or not, it's a thankful conversation because they had no idea.
So I know this story from I know some back channeling, so I'm not going to mention the firms, but there's a guy I know who got like an $18 million verdict a few years ago, and afterwards he did this big social media post about how all of the bigger firms in town had rejected it, and the reasons why, yada yada yada. And one of those big firms, they went in and looked in all their intake records, and they found that client. Yep. And they saw that they had rejected that case. It was a whopper of a case. It was just one of those ones that wasn't like a cookie cutter case. And so it got rejected. And so they revamped everything and how they handled their intake because of that case. That's one of those things you don't want to find out whenever someone else gets an $18 million verdict, that your intake. Yes. That's one of those ones that would be sickening. But so there's other situations too where there might be other holes in the bucket where, let's say that they're generating the traffic, but they're not getting the phone calls or the website submissions. So, which would probably indicate like there's some sort of a conversion issue on the website. So is there maybe, one or two tips that you all might be able to give people when it comes to how to increase conversion from the website?
Go ahead. Good advice.
Yeah, it kind of stems to just what I said. Conversion is basically closing, getting an appointment scheduled, not giving away free advice, right? A lot of attorneys, family law specific, like, I just got a quick question for you. They're shopping for input, but they don't want to pay anything for it, that sort of thing. So, conversion comes to, some attorneys say, hey, my first 15 minutes is free. After that, you're going to pay to meet with me or for me to give you advice. But it's closing the deal. It's getting people to set an appointment. There's always the tire kickers. There are always the people that don't have enough money. I mean, that's just the nature of it's like fishing. You're not always going to catch a marlin. You got to throw back a bunch of stuff before you get the good stuff. But I think that there's a lack of trying to close the deal by the receptionist, the paralegal, or whoever's calling, because it's typically not the lawyer that's on the phone with the person that's calling. I mean, sure, sometimes there's a rollover to a cell phone or that sort of thing, but he's usually got staff to handle that sort of thing. And again, at that point, it's like you've got a fish on the line. You've got someone calling about something that you do. Make sure that the job is to get them to talk to you. It's not to answer their questions on the phone or for them or to give them pricing or that sort of thing. It's to get them scheduled. Trav, I don't know if you want to.
Yeah. So there's a couple. So just for your listeners, so when we use our lingo, when we talk about conversion, there's a couple different things, right? There's callers and form fills that convert into clients. That's one conversion that you want to take a look at. But I think what you're talking about is traffic into callers. Like, how do we convert more of the folks that are finding your website to pick up the phone or email in? And so a couple things there is mobile first. Take a look at your website, and is the phone number or available? Is it easy to find you? Right? Don't make it tough for people to find you or get a hold of you, I should say. So make sure and if they want to chat, make sure that's available. So look at your website. Is the phone? I can't tell you how many times. A couple of different things. I can't tell you how many times I went to a website and I can't find their phone number. Right?
Exactly.
And I do this for a living. Right? Like when I'm looking. There's a sales call coming up, and I take a look at their website, and I'm like, are they plaintiff or defense? Like, and if I'm having that trouble, and I'm selfishly trying to figure out what you do, you think a consumer is going to take that time? They're going to scan it, and you better appeal to them. Or your biggest competition is the back button, right? And so make sure your website is set up to convert well. There's times where I've looked at websites and I look at it on the phone. I'm like, you can't even read it. How do you? So make sure you're optimizing your website and all of your marketing thinking mobile first, and do a little secret shop on your own office. Is it easy? Is it easy to get a hold of you? Can you find the phone number? Right? Can you email very, very effectively? And are you getting back to those phone calls and emails quickly? Because that's another thing. If you're opening the door to text messaging and emails, there's stats out there that you can look up. The golden hour is a 5-minute window, and then and converting that drops off dramatically as every minute past that. So if you can afford to do so, either you or delegate that to somebody, that if somebody emails in, that you get back to them lightning quickly.
Yeah, let me kind of piggyback off that. It's not just emails, but phone calls. Like, I can't tell you how many times, and it seems to be typically the solo criminal attorney. It's like, well, yeah, I'm in court all day. I can't answer the phone. So I go to voicemail. Voicemail is the kiss of death in this society that we live in. People have a patience they want immediate results. If I can't get a hold of somebody, I'm calling somebody else. And if you're calling me back, if I even left you a voicemail hours later, I've already called somebody else. So again, what we recommend a lot of our firms we can see how many calls they got missed or how many went to voicemail. Like, if you can't answer the phone, find somebody that can. If you are closed on the weekends, have some intake, some chat features on your website, some way that if someone is engaging with you, that they can reach you. But voicemails are that's just a black hole. No one, by the time you call them back, they've already hired somebody else most of the time. So have somebody answer the phone if you can't.
Because we hear this a lot. Well, if they really want to hire me, they'll leave a message. I'm like, what are we talking about? Like, and where that comes from, I joke about it, but I understand where it comes from, is that when they work off referrals, typically it would. Like, if I was referred to you, Tyson, Vaidas said, hey, call Tyson. He's the greatest at what he does, whatever. I would call and leave a message, because my alternative would be jump online and talk to a perfect stranger, right? So I'm going to leave a message. But what we're talking about is folks who don't know you. And I know there's going to be tough egos. A few of them have, a few lawyers have some egos out there. I don't know.
Just a couple, just a little bit.
They don't know who you are, right? These folks do not know who you are. They don't know the verdicts and settlements or all the, all the awards you've won. They don't know that. An event in their life happened, car crash, divorce, committed a crime, allegedly, whatever, or need a estate plan done, and they don't know attorneys. I didn't know any attorneys. My dad was a doctor. We didn't know any attorneys. He had one golfing buddy that was an attorney. I didn't know anybody. And I didn't realize how specialized people are, right? It's the reason why, attorneys will say, I do PI. And I go, yeah. Even your friends and family don't really know what you do. Oh, yeah, they do. Oh, really? Why do they call you when they get a DUI? Or why do they call you, right? Over, Thanksgiving dinner, folks who do transactional work, they ask you how are some of your cases going? You know what I mean? Like, they don't know, they don't put it together. So make sure that, just make sure they're able to contact you, clear statement of what you do, all those kinds of good things.
My family does finally know what I do. So the questions I get are, "Hey, are there any interesting cases that you're working on?" That's usually the question I get now is that one. But I've over the years it took me a little bit of time to kind of educate them on, no, I don't do that. But they will call me for recommendations for other people, so that's fine. Before I start to wrap things up, I do want to give you all an opportunity to let people know how to get in touch with you if they do want to work with you all, because I do want to let everybody know, like, you all are a sponsor of Max LawCon. You are a title sponsor. You all have been a great partner. You are amazing. I hear great things about you all the time. So part of me, I want to thank you all because you all have been great partners over the years, and I want to keep that going forward because you all have been really great. And we're very when it comes to who we work with and who we're not, we're very selective. And so having a good partner is really, really important to us. So thank you for that. But, but I do want to, if people want to reach out to you, what's the best way of them reaching out to you if they want to work with Rise Up?
Well, our website is riseupmedia.com, spelled with a Z. We don't know how to spell over here, obviously. Reach out and ask for Vaidas and Steve, and we'll get you connected.
So, and we've done this on the past podcast. I don't know if you can put it at the bottom, but like, I tell people to text me, call me. We don't work 9 to 5. I know a lot of people don't have time till the weekends. Send us a text. Be happy to set up a time to talk, whatever works. And if you go to riseup.com, we even have a box that says, hey, you heard about us from Max Law. The partnership with you guys and Rise Up has been fantastic. So we're really happy to continue that. Looking forward to MaxCon and experiencing that for the first time. But I know that we've, I don't know the number, but I have a lot of really good Max Law clients, and that continues to grow every month. So be happy.
Yeah, and we'll put the number in the show notes so people have it. So people will have that. I don't have the capability on this platform to put it on the screen, but the other platform you were on, I did have it, but not on this one.
My phone number is 704-953-7051. So feel free to text me or call me.
Midnight. Call me at midnight, folks.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So I did not think about the fact that this is your first Max LawCon because we're on hiatus for a few years. So that's because we've done all the other events. So that's really cool. That's the fact that you're going to get to experience it for the first time. That's pretty awesome. Pretty excited about that.
We're stoked.
Pretty cool.
We're stoked. Absolutely.
All right. Well, so when people come to the booth in Nashville in October, what's something that they should come and ask you about? Because sometimes people are afraid to kind of go to a booth and ask questions. So what are some things they should ask you about?
Yeah, this is we do a lot of trade shows. This is the first thing we're doing with you guys that's trade show-esque, right? Versus just the normal masterminds. What I tell people is, like, if you just want to look under the hood, we are the least pushy people you'll ever talk to. We're not going to try to force you to buy something or shove something down your throat. But if you want to know what you're doing, is it working? We have tools that we can take a look at of how your website's valued by Google. If you want to know what your competitors are doing, like, hey, there's this firm that just opened up last year. They're killing it. Can you look under their hood? We can give you all of that information give you some feedback, give you some suggestions. If it's something that you want help with, we can obviously do that. But we give free advice, and that tends to be very well received. And unfortunately, not the norm. A lot of people, I think, to Travis's point, they approach a company at a trade show and they kind of feel like they're just bombarded with a sales pitch. We're here to help. We're here to inform. And so if somebody's going to come up to us at MaxCon, just what questions do you have? Do you want to know if you're doing a good job? Do you want to know if the company you're with is doing a good job? We'll give you an honest opinion with no obligation as far as what we see.
And figure out what is it you want to do? What I tell everybody when I first start talking to them, where do you want to be? How do you want to see your firm better or different than you are right now in 6 to 12 months? And then let's put a plan together. Whether we're lucky enough to work with them or it's somebody else, like put a plan together of how to accomplish that. And maybe, some people have champagne taste and a beer budget, and that's fine. But let's figure it out in bite-sized pieces, if you will. And how do we scale? Like that's what we do every single day. And so if we can help lead them in the right direction, we're happy to do so.
Love it. All right, we'll leave it at that. Really appreciate it. RiseUpMedia.com with a Z. So make sure you check them out with RiseUpMedia.com with Rise Up with a Z. Very, very important. Thank you both for doing this, Travis and Vaidas. Really appreciate it. We'll see you all in Nashville. If you want tickets, go to maxlawcon.com. You can get your tickets there, but we'll see you in Nashville. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.